we have now three immediate challenges: energy security, sustainability and climate change, and competitiveness. First, energy security. Of course, we should examine that at the light of the present Russia-Ukraine crisis, because this crisis again illustrates very well the present vulnerability of our energy system. We cannot accept the use of gas as a sort of political weapon.
But Russian gas provides roughly today 1/3 of the European gas consumption. We absolutely need to continue to cooperate with Russia.
The trend with consumers is increasingly towards worrying about the carbon footprint of items they're purchasing. So energy mix and energy content become two very important parameters for the types of materials we sell into the consumer electronics industry, for example.
The first suggestion is to use all the technological assets that Europe has to produce power without CO2. In the power mix, nuclear and renewables are not only compatible, but they are complementary.
The 2020 targets have had quite a bad press, I would say, in this meeting. But for my industry, they have been absolutely vital. They've actually created an industry. Last year, in 2013, Spain produced 21.1% of its electricity from the wind.
It was calculated that in 2020, it's actually attractive to have a solar PV home, an electric car, and a small battery system.
Obviously, renewable energy is part of the solution for Europe, but you cannot isolate it from the developments in grids, in storage, in software tools, in demand response.
In 2013, out of 11 billion euros of incentives given to the renewables in Italy, 6 billion were given just to the solar sector. That's something that has created a very big problem in terms of overcapacity. The megawatts installed were 200% higher than the 2020 target.
Emissions trading very rarely comes onto our agenda because that is not what is guiding our investment decisions. We drive efficiency relentlessly through all our operations for pure economic reasons.
The emission trading scheme do not help at all. In fact, I find it as a disaster within industry. For the part of industry which is covered by ETS, 95% today qualify for carbon leakage, so they're exempt.
The expansion of renewables would go on even without any subsidies. I'm absolutely convinced of that, because it's just an issue of technology and of the economics.
I agree in full, but please consider that one of the main problems that we have today in Europe is the poor electricity demand.
Due to the overcapacity that we've had, the excess supply over the demand, we're all suffering financially, which means that we don't have the money anymore to make the investments we want to make.
We should have a focus on CO2 reduction targets, on decarbonization targets, and actually we think it's wise to actually take out the numerous targets that we had in the past and to focus on what is really the priority.
Here I think we should resist perhaps our own natural tendency to immediately come with additional regulation, and also see whether we shouldn't actually remove regulation to facilitate investments.
Anybody that comes from industry and claims they cannot improve the efficiency of their operation is just not looking hard enough. This is one of the fastest payback investments that we ever make.
The energy efficiency, I think, is actually going to be very much more in the focus in the forthcoming years than it has historically, because it's not only a function, again, of a detailed regulation, it's a function of a mental shift.
Yes, efficiency in the absolute sense, but not efficiency, again, in absolute targets. This is the type of planning thinking. If you do that, that's also fine, but then please don't try to establish at the same time a market.
The grid has to be given the same level of focus and importance as generation.
One question is, we are developing this for 2030, while the discussions on what will be the energy mix in 2030 have not taken place. yet. So we have to develop today the grid for an unknown future.
What we have at the moment is a number of regional markets and pools which are interconnected to some extent, but the wiring is not there in place yet, if you like, for the single market, that we still have a number of bottlenecks as been described.
And reality is that to make a new 400 kV line, it needs 10 years. 9 years for getting the permit and 1 year to build the line. And this will be the future nightmare of the European Energy Union.
We cannot live if at the same time we are confronted on a European level with the request for more internal markets, more competition, etc., etc. At the same time, every national regulator, every national government actually poses contradicting and partially not aligned incentives on a national level.
We are opening probably today a new page regarding energy security and regarding, of course, also European internal energy market, because the European internal energy market is at the heart of our strategy in terms of energy security, as well as regarding 2030.